Hey there, entrepreneurs. My name is Sushant, and welcome to Trip Talks. This is the show where I interview successful e-commerce entrepreneurs, business executives, and thought leaders, and ask them questions about their business story, and also dive deep into some of the strategies and tactics that they have used to start and grow their businesses. And today, I'm really excited to welcome David Rubie-Todd to the show. David is the co-founder of Sticker It. Sticker It prints custom stickers for some of the smallest and largest brands all over the world. And today I'm going to ask David a few questions about his entrepreneurial journey and some of the strategies and tactics that he has used to start and grow his business. So thank you so much for joining me today at Trip Talks, David.
My pleasure.
So yeah, can you share a little bit about your story? How did you get started? What gave you the idea for Sticker It? It's a really interesting business idea.
Yeah, me and my brother, we actually already owned a print business that we started back in 2007. I was 16 and he was 18, so we were kids at home at the time, really, and just started in our parents' sort of back room, and that brand's all about custom graphics and design for motorsport. And back in 2018, we felt there was an opportunity to use this sort of tech we built, and both on the print side and the sort of the ordering side, the customer experience side, for sort of mass market custom stickers and labels. So we launched Sticker It back in 2018, and it proved to be a good decision. It's grown nice and quickly, both in the sort of UK where we started, and then we launched into the US about a year ago. And that's actually now overtaken the UK already, which is cool, and sort of slowly working our way through Europe. So I suppose the premise was all about making it easy and an enjoyable experience to customize a product through printed stickers and labels. And we've got sort of future plans for that to sort of move into other products, particularly sort of packaging and that side of things. So yeah, it's all about printing custom stickers and labels, but make it a really easy ordering experience with then a high quality product. So it's not sort of you get those sort of cheap printed T-shirts that you use for sort of a weekend event or something like that. It's about sort of quality, not compromising on quality, even though it's custom.
So do you consider yourself more today more of a printing business or more of a technology business?
Good question. We like to refer to ourselves in-house as a tech business that prints stickers, and it's a slight sort of different way of looking at it than a print business. So we use a lot of automation, and our whole business is built around digital print technology. So what I mean by that is you can kind of get old school sort of analog print methods, screen printing, or where it might layer colors one after another. But typically with those print processes, you'll have a certain amount of setup before you can start printing. Whereas digital tech today, both on printing and what we will call finishing, so applying a laminate or cutting the stickers out, there are digital options for all of those, and that's the route we take. So we invest, we don't develop that in-house necessarily. So we invest in the digital side on that end, but then in-house we develop a lot of our own order fulfillment side of things. And because to get sort of genuine automation where we can spend almost seconds per order of human being time on a custom product is sort of, that's the goal. And yeah, we've already cut it by probably 60%, and we've got sort of plans over the years to get that lower and lower. So
you started off really, really early in your own life, I think 14 or 16 years old. Why? And this is a challenge, I think, for anyone who's trying to start a business, is like, what idea or what product or service to sell. Why stickers, which is a very, very unique thing? And how did you know that this is actually going to be like a scalable business?
When you're a kid, as I was back then, 32 now, but you don't worry about those things. And I think a lot of the sort of long-term successful entrepreneurs, they don't necessarily think about those things in the early days. They work on what they enjoy, and they find ways to grow it. So and they end up building Zara's of the world. Like that's a huge global corporation, and I believe he started off as a market trader or something, working on his dad's stall. And it's sort of similar here. We used to race go-karts, and it's like, oh, actually, we could sell sponsorship packages here, and to do that, we need to print graphics. So we looked around, okay, couldn't find anyone that we thought did it particularly well. So we then thought we'd do it ourselves, and that's eventually evolved into what we're doing today. And so there were sort of two brothers starting printing a few graphics and selling them at the sort of the side of the track back in 2007, and now we sort of ship hundreds of orders a week all around the world. And I think it's probably a product of your ambition and vision, and wanting to be the best, and genuinely pushing to not accept what's normal. So, for example, in our industry, there's a lot of sort of workflow automation ideas that it help improve processes, absolutely. But I would think of automation as in genuine, no human interaction as the goal, whereas these are sort of tools to make your life easier. So I think it's just not accepting that this is how the industry does it. Let's go and do it as good as we can. And that takes a lot of time and money. As people like, I don't know, Tesla, they're investing truckloads into their manufacturing, as Elon Musk talks about a lot, and finding new ways of doing it, even though you'd imagine the German sort of car companies you kind of imagine they've got it absolutely nailed, but clearly Tesla don't believe that, and they're sort of pushing even more. And I think there's a huge scale, and ours is a tiny scale, but there's sort of, I think it's just all around that vision and wanting for more, if that makes sense.
So if we think about like the competitive landscape, so it's basically a printing business, which, on the front end you have created this technology platform to make it easier for customers to send their orders, basically. Yeah. Can other printers, like other printing companies who do like regular stationery or flyers and those kind of things, is it not easy for them to really start doing this also, or does sticker printer is fundamentally different from other printing? Like, how do you differentiate your business from other printing businesses and like keep your competitive edge in the marketplace?
Yeah, it's a good question, something I ask myself a lot, because let's take the UK, for example. There are thousands of what I would call small print shops. So they're companies that have, let's say, a £20,000 printer that will print reasonably well, and you can almost walk in off the street and go and get some reasonable quality print. And clearly the barrier to entry there is almost none, because I mean, most of these printer companies will finance it for you on a few £100 a week or whatever, and away you go. Then there's sort of where there's a bit of a gap to where then we are, which is, so for example, we've got a £500,000 sort of $700,000 printer arriving in May. Okay. that is such a different product output from one of those. It's trying to sort of compete on a quality and a consistent quality. So it's about putting out a perfect sticker every single minute of every single day. Almost, we run 6 days a week, 20 hours a day, and it's those machines need to output perfectly every single time. So I think the barrier to getting involved and starting a little print shop, easy. Scaling and sort of putting out beautiful quality print all day, every day is difficult. The kit is expensive, so that's sort of £500,000 for the printer and probably £300,000 for the finishing, so laminating, cutting, etc. But that's all very well saying, okay, but how do you communicate that to a customer? And I suppose it's a stack. Ultimately, it's a stack of a ton of little innovations that make it difficult to follow. Much like I think that's how competitive advantages are built in lots of businesses. Unless you can say patent something, or it's about the people in the business constantly thinking and doing better. And so if we can, if our SEO is a little bit better and our website speed's a little bit better and the quality scores a little bit better on the ads and the customer experience a little bit better, and you sort of stack all these improvements together, suddenly they compound into actually you deliver 5 times the value that the next person does. And then that's difficult to then catch up if you don't become complacent and sort of and let it go. So the short answer is, yeah, super easy to get involved, as we did when we were kids. 6,000 quid was our first printer. And it's that leap to the sort of the professional side, which is difficult. And we've found it difficult because it's without external investment, which we haven't had. It's difficult to go from buying 30 grand printers to £500,000 printers. They're big leaps.
And given that now you have reached the scale with the sticker printing, like, do you ever think that, now you can expand beyond stickers? Is that something that you think about, or to get into more of the traditional printing side of things, just because you have that scale and maybe it's easier for you to get into those markets?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of our whole sort of focuses of when we're building tech is what we're essentially building, this customization platform, if that makes sense, for ourselves internally. And we have a whole pipeline of products that we'd like to apply that to. And I don't mean that sort of Vistaprint are good at business cards or Moo, or there's lots of people that have solved that problem, and that's cool. But there are other products that people, and especially the problem I think is for small businesses. So if you're a big business, and it's the same in labels. So if you're a big alcohol brand, you can afford to go the sort of analog route that I mentioned earlier and have a beautiful label with all the special effects, foils, so they have metallic effects, and spot UV, which is like a raised varnish that has a nice texture. That's all available to you because you're going to be buying hundreds of thousands of labels. But if you're the person down the road who wants 500 for an organic hand cream or something, or there's thousands of examples that buy from us, and it's how do we bring all those possibilities to that one-man band at a reasonable price in a reasonable time scale? And it's I think that's the opportunity, is applying that sort of thinking to other sort of products that would be difficult to get today, because they're difficult for 2 reasons. I think one is the tech is maybe still mostly analog, so that would require us to develop some of that tech. And then the second is the buying process, is how do we make it super clear exactly what they are getting, and for it to turn up in just a few days for a reasonable price. It's all they're quite difficult challenges to solve.
So can you share like some of the use cases? I'm assuming your biggest, like your customers are really businesses, right? Like the businesses are ordering these stickers. What are some of the use cases that they're using these stickers for?
We have sort of, to a little step back, we have three types of customers, and sort of businesses are the biggest. And typically it's two reasons: product labels is the big one, or sort of handouts at events or employee onboarding. A lot of tech companies sort of sticking on laptops and other places like that. So that a lot of businesses buy for those reasons, and for sort of putting in every package that maybe gets shipped out, that sort of application. We have a second type of customer who is, say, an artist or a designer, and they will actually buy stickers sort of individually to then sell either on their website or on Etsy or something like that. And then the smallest sort of group that we currently provide for is sort of creative individuals that are maybe buying something for a special event, such as a wedding. So a bride buying something for wedding favors or something like that.
Mm-hmm. So in terms of like the sales process, is it completely just marketing driven online, or do you have like a sales force that actually, based on knowing which businesses are most profitable for you, they actually prospect and go out to those businesses and say, hey, use our services to print stickers for your, trade show or whatever they're doing, product label, etc.
I think there is room for that, definitely. That's not we don't focus on that today. We are purely an online sort of business model, and that's how we try and sort of keep costs down. It's a sort of self-serve platform, and we do provide advice, because I think one of the biggest issues is to help people understand which sticker to buy for their certain sort of use case. Because I mean, a sticker is a sticker in some senses, but actually you can play with the grade of the adhesive and the print film, and there's actually kind of a lot of combinations you can go for. But ultimately, we try and simplify that down and sort of almost over-engineer the product for most applications, so it's sort of suitable for a lot of use cases. But no, all online. We predominantly acquire customers from Google search. SEO is our big focus, and then we do quite a lot of email sort of, but that tends to be further down the funnel, if that makes sense. So in terms of getting cold customers coming in, it's I would very, very high percentage through Google SEO.
I was very interested in the platform itself, like the customer facing customization platform. I believe I read somewhere you shifted from some other platform to like Bigcommerce, and that helped you to create a better experience on that. Can you share a little bit about what exactly that process looked like? Like, is this something that you created in-house? Did you take like some other technology businesses API and implement that to make it easier? Like, is that like a more of a custom platform that of your own specific business? Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. And it probably ties into one of the biggest mistakes we've made with Sticker It is when we first launched, we had and we have big ambitions. So we thought, we started to build, or we built the first site on Magento 2. Okay. And we had about 6 full-time devs on it at one point, and just it was basically the wrong choice of technology for us. We spent pretty much all of the time sort of keeping the platform up rather than developing features. So about 15, 16 months into into the business, we sort of cut our losses and went across to Bigcommerce. It's actually it's a headless, so it's got a WordPress front end, and we launched it within about 6 weeks and just sort of minimum viable product approach, and just then iterated from there. That's on the sort of the core e-commerce site, if you like.
Yeah.
And we're actually in the process now of going again with a sort of a Jamstack site, so it's much faster load times and that sort of things. But on the online designer, as we call it, graphic, that is a custom React application,
Okay.
and it's all about helping. I mentioned those 3 categories of customer. The third one, the sort of creative individual, doesn't necessarily have access to artwork or to a design tool that doesn't cost money, and so we try and help those people by giving them that tool. And it's specifically designed. It's a design tool for print, so it's designed to work within the limitations of print, which are more than in say if you use Canva. There's a ton of things you can do there, it's an excellent tool. I mean, they're sort of one of my idols. I think they've done a fantastic job, and we try and make it clear, make it easy to design for print. So there's certain limitations. For example, printers work in CMYK, so cyan, yellow, magenta, and black. That has a much more limited color gamut or range of colors than your screen, which is in RGB, and I think it's something like 16,000 colors to 16 million colors, which sounds like a lot, but actually it's not as sort of a stark difference as you may think. But so it's just sort of basic things like that we try and make sort of really easy. It's pretty new tool. We only launched it late last year, so it's got a lot of work. We've got a lot of work to do on it.
So it was designed completely from scratch. Like, you're not taking any third party like open source design tool and just customizing it for your purposes.
We're not. No, unfortunately not. Which maybe we should have. We bit off a big bite, and it's cost a lot of money. It continues to cost a lot of money, but hopefully it proves to be value in the long term.
So, I mean, it's very interesting. It seems like your biggest cost really is technology, and I guess once you have the printers, they certain probably have like 5 to 10 years printing life or something. So very, very interesting business model. What does your team look like? Like, do you work with a lot of people who have to manage those designs and ship and pack and ship and those kind of things?
Yeah, there's only about 15 of us, really lean, maybe a bit too lean, but we try and keep it lean, and sort of solve as many problems through tech as we can. I like to think of it as sort of removing the mundane, so keeping the interesting bits for the people. So we have designers who take the artwork that customers give us, and sometimes it's beautiful, perfect quality, and other times it needs a bit of work to get it to a quality where it can be printed. So they spend time doing those sorts of things. Then the whole production team who would run the printers and all the finishing equipment and doing sort of the packaging and shipping, customer service side, and then the sort of development team, and then a little marketing team. But we work quite remotely, so we've got people all over, which has worked really well.
And in terms of like post-purchase experience, do you offer like free shipping? What do you do? I know I have shopped with Vistaprint before, and like sometimes the design, there was something not correct with the design, and I asked them, this is not right, and they'll basically, reprint it and correct it and send it back. Like, what kind of post-purchase experience? Because I would assume that is probably quite important in this business also. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's we provide digital design proofs for everything. So we send them a picture basically of what it's going to look like. But there are limitations to that process. So we get as close as we can, and sometimes it's, I don't know, colors off or whatever. So yeah, we offer free shipping. If there's an error, we fix it. And we try and every time we get that through, we try and look at, okay, what was the root cause of that? How can we make that bit of the experience better? Because there's always something you can get better, whether it, and it's tiny, tiny little things. So did that customer understand exactly that sort of, we had an outline, does that represent the cut line? And it's just tiny, you can sort of make almost thousands of these tiny little improvements to make the experience that much better. Something we've done recently, and it's probably sort of really helped, is a much more communication during the shipping process, because we print to order. It takes about 4 days to fulfill an order at the moment, and that's a long time in the e-commerce world. So
Yeah.
constant communication and people being able to click a link and seeing where sort of how their order's moving. So a bit like the sort of Domino's pizza tracker, we have a similar concept where you can see when it's printing, you can see when it's cutting, you can see when it's been shipped, and then get your tracking info. And it's having that communication is really important, because 4 days plus shipping is a long time in our world. So that's one area I think we've learned a lot about, is how much you almost think when you're designing the system, or this feels like too much communication, but actually when you're the recipient, you're on the other end, you really want to sort of an email at every stage actually isn't too much. And maybe it could even be more. For example, we've recently introduced texts so we'll send a design proof, as I mentioned, after someone places an order, and actually sending that via text as well is just, we found to be really helpful. And a lot of people, it's a very easy process to do on your phone on the move, and instead of making someone to open up their email, et cetera, and that's been a good thing. So I think a lot of communication has been our learning there.
And do you use a third-party software in order to do that?
To send texts?
To just the whole tracking experience?
We ship using SendCloud, and they then run. So from the sort of the moment the order, we make a label. Basically, it's actually SendCloud sending those customer communications. Okay. But up until that point, it's all us. So we've built what we call our My account internally, and that's what the customer will log into and see their designs they've got, and see the status of their order. So that's all sort of been built by us.
So basically transactional emails through just the Bigcommerce platform, and then afterwards it's SendCloud that does the carrier shipment tracking information, I guess.
Yeah. Bigcommerce doesn't play a huge role. It's Bigcommerce just for us sends the order confirmation, and then our own system. I think we use SendGrid to physically send emails, but our own system then takes over and does all the communication around proofing. So, hey, we've got a proof for you to review. Click this link, go and have a look. And if they don't do that, a reminder. Or occasionally we might have a question, or sometimes we can't get the artwork to a good enough standard, so we just say, hey, have you got a sort of higher quality piece of artwork you can send us? That's all managed by our system. And then from the point of shipment, it's SendCloud.
I know you did mention some of the mistakes that you made before. I always ask this question to entrepreneurs. You've been doing this business for, I guess, almost 20 years, I believe. What have been some of the biggest mistakes that you think you made? I mean, I'm sure there's been lots of learning, but some mistakes that other entrepreneurs can learn from you and avoid.
Good question. I think, as I mentioned, one of the biggest mistakes with Sticker It was the Magento decision. and the other was about not focusing on SEO soon enough and just sort of not quite appreciating its power. It's a sort of, it takes time to build, and you've almost got to sort of do a little bit every day for it to compound into something that's genuinely valuable. So we didn't start on SEO anything like soon enough. Other things that have sort of tripped us up in terms of mistakes is suppliers. So we take raw material in, we process it, and stickers go out the door. If you only have one supplier and they don't deliver, you're screwed pretty quick. And especially at the moment with the knock-on effects of COVID on just things like the release liner, so the backing paper that goes on the back of your sticker, there is sort of a chronic supply shortage at the moment for that, and it's if you don't have multiple suppliers, you might not use them all the time. But I think that was a lesson, and actually we learned a similar lesson probably back in 2008-9, where we used a US supplier for our karting products, and basically they stopped delivering, and very quickly, I mean within a matter of weeks, you can, if you don't have product coming in, you don't have them product going out, and customers get pretty annoyed pretty quick. So that there were some big learns for us there on the manufacturing side. And again, probably cash flow management, I think, is a big learn. Understanding the difference between a P&L and a cash flow. It's, you think you're making profit, but actually you look at your sort of free cash flow for the month, and it's quite a different number. And genuinely understanding that took me a long time. And because of the working capital needed in a manufacturing business like ours, you've got to be hot on that, and that has hurt us. I mean, luckily, when we sort of COVID came in and it really hit the karting business because it's all events based, we had reserves to get us through. But I think if you're kind of living on the edge, and then in a manufacturing business and something like that happens, it can very quickly swallow you whole. If you've got all these leased machines that are thousands every month, and then you suddenly can't afford the material to go on it, it can hurt very quickly. So
makes sense. Are you on social media? Is social media a driver of customers for your business, or is it not really that relevant?
For us, it's not a big channel. We do a poor job of social media. There are a few people in our industry that do a fantastic job, and I think for them it probably is. But for us, we focus almost completely on SEO, and it's worked really well for us. And when I feel like we've got that sort of properly resourced and a kind of the process, I'm really happy with the process, then I think we'll move on to the next. I just want to sort of nail that channel first, and then move on to the next one, which sometimes it's that there's maybe short-term detriment, because say our Instagram doesn't look great, but I don't want to do a sort of half job. So yeah, for us, not a big driver, but I think for others in our industry, it probably is.
So now we're going to move on to our rapid fire round. And in this, I'm going to ask a few quick questions, and you can answer them maybe in 1 word or 2 words. So
okay, I'll try.
Any book recommendations for entrepreneurs or business people in 2022, and why?
7 Habits of Highly Effective People, because it's probably one of the best books ever, and Principles by Ray Dalio, because he's spent a lot of time thinking about what made him successful and putting that into a book that you can buy for a tenner and learn it all. So I think, yeah, those 2, maybe not the most entertaining, but like properly good.
An innovative product or idea in the current e-commerce, retail, or tech landscape that you feel excited about?
Something we've recently started using is Jasper. It's sort of an AI writing assistant, and it's shockingly good.
Okay.
Kind of took my breath away actually in how good it is. So that's pretty cool.
So that writes what, blog posts or product descriptions?
Yeah, and you kind of look at it, you think, is that for real? And it's pretty good. I'm impressed. So yeah, we've recently we're experimenting with it at the moment.
Okay, I'm going to try it out. A startup or business in e-commerce, retail, or tech that you think is currently doing great things?
Um, a startup. I mean, something else that comes to mind that's I think is awesome is Dialogflow. Google have recently bought. I can't remember what the name of the business was before they bought it, but sort of they pulled it into their Dialogflow product, and their sort of natural language understanding is properly impressive, and I think that will impact in a lot of areas. So yeah, I think that's pretty cool.
Any productivity tool or tip for other entrepreneurs?
We use Asana, like Asana, and read Eat That Frog. Yeah, Eat That Frog is good. It's a productivity book. And actually, time blocking is something that I've in the last probably year started doing, and I sort of take quite a lot of time. Conscious this isn't one word answer, but I take quite a lot of time at the start of the week to just think about what's important and block my time. And I think it just nudges. Well, it's difficult to estimate how long something's going to take, maybe the negative of it, but the positive is it sort of it gets you started on the task, and it sort of blocks out some time for the important things, which is cool.
A peer entrepreneur or business person whom you look up to, or someone who inspires you?
I'm very, very lucky to have had a mentor for most of my working life, a guy called Adam Norris. He is a founder of a company called Pure Electric. He's a very successful entrepreneur in his own right. And yeah, he's spent a lot of time with him. So yeah, he's got to be that for me.
And final question, best business advice you have ever received or you would give to other entrepreneurs?
Focus on your passion. I think at stages in life I haven't, and it's never been a good thing. I've had a billionaire say that to me as well. So I think it took probably 5 years from them saying it for me to realize how important it is, which is sad, I know. But it's still just, I can remember it so vividly today. And I think, yeah, I should have listened to you before.
And what is your passion?
Good question. Building I was going to say a great company. It's building something that has a genuine positive impact, I think. So today, stickers are sort of associated with plastic, but they don't have to be. And I think if we can scale and transition millions of small companies to sustainable alternatives, I think there's quite a big positive impact that can make. So that's we almost want to, I think, the sort of idea of this sort of people put a premium on stuff that's environmentally friendly. I'd like to try and remove that, and just it's compostable, but you almost don't even know it. You don't buy it because it's compostable, but it's just that's an extra benefit. And I think If we can transition sort of millions of square meters printed in the next few years across to stuff that's sort of degrades in a matter of months, I think that's a cool thing.
Yeah, that's very interesting. So many businesses now are trying to figure out ways to become sustainable and for a good reason. So
Yeah.
thank you so much, David, for joining us today. Those were all the questions that I had. Now is your time. You can share your website, any way people can get in touch with you. Please let us know.
Yeah, well, thank you very much for having me. If you want stickers or labels, stickerit.co is the web address. And yeah, we hope we can help. And yeah, it's good to chat.
Perfect. Thank you so much, David, for joining us today, for sharing your story, for sharing lots of lessons learned. So really liked speaking with you, and thank you again for joining us today at Trip Talks.
Yeah, thank you very much. Have a nice